This is Webcast One Live.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
The views expressed by J. Michael McCoy are the views of the hosts and guests of Max World Live, and not necessarily the views of Webcast One Live, its staff, its management, the cleaning crew, Dave the electric guy, the guy who cleans the skywalk, the woman who brought in the cookies, the management staff of Hubble Real Estate, the parking lot attendant at Keck Parking, the wait staff over at Miss Kitty's, the coffee crew at Frederick's, the man in the street corner willing to work for food, Rob Spearman, Max Crabb, or anyone else of sound mind. Should you be offended, provoked, intimidated, shocked, confused, or just made to think independently, log on to maxworldlive.com right now. It's your voice we want to hear in Max World. And now, live from the palatial studios of Webcast One Live, your host, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, good afternoon. It is the 24th day of June in the Lord's year 2014. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is the Tuesday edition of Max World Live, as always, being co-hosted today with the incredible Tom Coates. Tom, how you doing?
Incredible.
You look like you got a tan.
I've been out a lot watching little kids' baseball games, Mac.
Oh, for your grandkids?
I had two Friday, two Saturday, a couple Sunday, one yesterday, and so being outside that much will get you a little sun.
You look more tan than you did when you went to Mexico.
I know it. I've been outside more.
Well, I didn't really tell you this because I didn't want you to be mad at me, but I had somebody follow you in Mexico.
Oh, really?
And they said that you sat on the beach under a big umbrella with a big old sombrero and white cream all over your nose and face, and you read the Wall Street Journal and drank Mai Tais all day.
That must have been somebody else.
I don't think so.
I was out in the open with a cigar and a scotch, Mac. That would have been
That
me.
would have been you. All right. And Ryan on vacation this week, so the lovely Maddie Kane is producing, and our special guest today is Dr. Lee Heib. And Dr. Heib is the Libertarian gubernatorial candidate here in the state of Iowa. And I bet you didn't even know we had a Libertarian candidate on the ballot. In fact, you've even got a lieutenant governor running with you.
Oh, yes.
And
we
who's
actually
that?
are a real party. Ryan Kettleson.
Ryan Kettleson, okay.
In fact, we're the second party. The first party are the Republicrats, the party of big government.
Okay, yeah, the one big party.
Yeah, we don't say we're a third party. We're a second party.
That's good. Well, and I want to learn more about what a libertarian is. I think I know, but I'd like to hear, directly from you. What makes a libertarian different than a Republican or a Democrat or the Green Party or something like that?
Well, people talk about left and right, but really people need to talk about freedom and statism. And the libertarians believe that the biggest threat to humanity is big government, and that if you limit government like we were given a constitution to do, that things work out better. And it almost, I can't remember the author, and I apologize to him if he's listening, but there's a guy who wrote a book about the principles of libertarianism, and his comment was, whatever the question is, the answer is freedom.
Okay.
And I really do believe in, and I think so. Let me say, I'm a recovering Republican. I was a Republican lifelong. But one day I woke up and I said, people say, well, why did you leave the Republican Party? And I'm not here to badmouth the Republican Party, but I am going to say it's not the grassroots Republicans that I object to, but the guys at the top. And what I say is, I didn't leave them. They left me. I'm still standing on the Constitution.
Yeah.
So the Libertarian Party, we're not anarchists. We believe in limited government as put forth in our American Constitution, and we believe in American exceptionalism, and that free people can do great things, and that right now our biggest problem is we've let government usurp the powers that should have been left to the people, and it's just it has to. You can't do that forever.
Yeah, we are on a track of spending and big government that's going to eventually make it not work, probably for, if not my children, certainly my grandchildren.
Well, unfortunately, I don't think you have that long to go. I mean, when you look around, my great-grandfather homesteaded here in 1871 into Iowa, and every year Iowa government has grown. And the problem is, you can't get ahead economically with the growth of government. To get ahead economically, no matter where you are on the economic scale, you have to produce real goods and services. Food, clothing, shelter, medical care, transportation, widgets, all the things that our grandfathers and grandmothers produced to get more goods and services, to be more wealthy. what does government produce? Unfortunately, with the exception of corruption, it only produces taxation and regulation. And taxation, we are now in Iowa, we are the #1 corporate tax in the nation. Thanks to the
Meaning highest?
Yes,
Okay.
we're the highest in the nation. We're above New Jersey and New York and Massachusetts and all the places we think are in trouble. We now have moved from the 15th from the top to the 5th from the top personal taxes. And if you, as a combined household income, make $64,000 a year, you are in the top tax bracket. So this isn't just about the wealthy. This is about all of us. Every man, woman, and child, thanks to the recent budget passed by these guys that I'm running against, they have just passed the biggest budget increase and the biggest growth in government in the history of the state. And we now everyone owes $2,300, man, woman, child, every year to the state of Iowa. Well, you just can't keep doing that. I mean, what's our biggest export to South Dakota? It's jobs. It used to be beef, but now it's jobs and business. And when I see these commercials saying how many new jobs we have in Iowa, no. We've given some money, some tax breaks to some big businesses like Google. Okay, that's fine and good. Well, actually, it's not. It looks flashy, but in the process, we've taken money from small businesses and overregulated them out of business. And if you go down where I live on Highway 30, and if I sound passionate about this, it's because I live out in rural Iowa, and I'm watching us collapse. We're the nose of the dog, So you tax and regulate us, and the small businesses go out of business. We don't have any small dairies anymore, and that's from the concrete they had to pour to just do milking. We have very few small meat markets anymore. We just lost one in Council Bluffs. We have only 5 independent chicken processors, small little town chicken processors in the whole state. Now, that may sound funny if you live in Des Moines, but I'm going to tell you, when you live in rural Iowa and you have your little backyard flock, that's not a small point. And why do we only have 5? It's because they've been regulated and taxed out of business. And we're supposed to be the heartland of rural agriculture. We should be embracing our rural heritage.
Dr. Lee Heib is my guest. She is and I want to get this right, you're a orthopedic surgeon.
Right.
So you spines and things like that.
I am. I actually am a spine surgeon. I've offered to give some of our legislators a spine, but they haven't taken me up.
And originally from Iowa, and you live now in Logan, Iowa, which is around Council Bluffs, Omaha Council Bluffs area. So you Hawkeye or Cyclone?
Harrison County.
Harrison County.
Actually, I went to Grinnell. I'm actually a Grinnell dropout.
Oh, all right. So why a successful orthopedic surgeon wants to be governor?
Well, I didn't start out that way. And when the Libertarian Party initially approached Ryan and me, we kind of said, he's a businessman. I have my profession. And we said, oh, no, we're not professional politicians. But as I've looked at it, that's our best qualification. Because I have 2 sons in this state, and I don't want to see the thing collapse. You were talking about your grandchildren. Yeah. I don't think we have another generation to go. We have 20% more government workers per capita in Iowa than California does.
Wow.
That should put a chill in the heart of every Iowan.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
I didn't know
And
that.
I'm going to tell you, it's every day I look around. I used to joke, well, maybe we can't save America, but we ought to be able to save Iowa. We have to act now. I feel like somebody, since I've been on this campaign and I've gotten more and more facts under my belt, and I look around, I feel like somebody in the theater trying to yell fire and nobody's listening, because it's really, we are at a tipping point. You cannot, and I'm going to tell you what's going to tip us. We're about at the tipping point, and the Obamacare that the governor brought into the state, I wrote to him before that. I said, do not sign the Obamacare exchanges. The penalties for small business are astronomical. If the feds are going to do it to us, push them back, but if you can't, at least let them, it's like kind of having a slave owner. If they're going to throw you in chains, that's one thing, but don't put the chains on yourself. It turns out there's like 10 reasons I wrote in the letter to him, do not get the state exchanges. He signed up for the state exchanges. Minimum, it's going to cost us $20 million just to run the exchange before we even pay $1 out in care. I can go into the economics of that, but and I can if you want to. But how Obamacare is going to break the bank, but we simply can't afford it. I mean, you watch Des Moines going to grow, but the rest of the state's going to shrink.
Yeah.
The second one is Common Core. Common Core is a failed education program. It's being, parents don't want it. Lots of teachers don't want it.
Who wants it?
Well, that's a very good question, and I've been looking into that. And if you look around the country, it seems to be the governors. Why do they want it? I can follow the money to private corporations that have this thing copyrighted. I mean, I would love to have a business that the government could force you to buy my product, and that's exactly what this is. This is a terrible the Prussians would have loved it, but it's a terrible educational program that the federal government can tell us what to teach our children. It's unanimity of thought or non-thought, and they're going to triple the testing at $30 a test, and all this is to private corporations that make all the materials, follow the money. But why are the governors going after it, even though they're people, the voters don't like it in general? I'm not sure, because this is uniting parties. Democrats don't like it, Republicans don't like it. People on the ground do not like this program. But if you look at what the governor has said, he said, well, we're not going to do that. We're going to have Iowa Core, not Common Core. Well, on our website, you'll notice that we have the letter where he asked Common Core to come into the state. And if you look at the books that are coming in, like in my town and other towns that are buying the new books under this program, they all say Iowa Core Math, Iowa Core History, Iowa Core English. So governors, there's Indiana Core, Florida Core. I mean, it's stealth. They're doing it by stealth. Why? I don't see where the governors are getting money unless we're talking about campaign contributions, or I don't know what it is. I can't follow. If somebody out there knows, please tell me, because there's got to be a follow the money point here.
Yeah, because the people that I'm familiar with in your industry in politics, I can't find anybody that likes Common Core.
Yeah, they're all trying to backpedal and say, oh no, I don't really want Common Core, but they're doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, the answer is not just stopping Common Core. You can unsign Common Core. I think that can be unsigned. The authorization can be unsigned. But you have to go to the Department of Education and make sure this doesn't morph into some other form of some other core. Because look, when people say, oh, then we wouldn't get government funding, and I point out, before we had government funding, we had local control. And local control means your school board sets the curriculum, your school board gets the money locally, your principals ensure discipline and order, and your teachers teach. And that's local control. Local control is not the State Board of Education telling us what to do. It's local control. And, I'm offended the most by this, for people thinking, if we didn't have somebody else giving us standards, oh my, we wouldn't set standards for our children.
Yeah.
We were number one in the nation, probably in the world, when I was growing up for education. The top 3 every year we were rated. We didn't have any standards set by the state or the federal government. So we have to go to the Department of Education and undo that mess too. I mean, that needs to be shrunk down, and they don't need to give us standards.
Dr. Lee Heib is our guest today. She is the Libertarian gubernatorial candidate. She is from Harrison County, lives in Logan, Iowa, and she is an orthopedic surgeon and former, did you say Navy?
I was a Navy officer, yeah.
What did you do in the Navy?
I was a general medical officer with the Marines for 2 years, and then I was an orthopedic surgeon after I got out of training with the Marines for 2 years. Couldn't get away from the Marine Corps.
And how long were you in there then for?
10 years.
Wow.
9.5.
9.5. And you have 2 sons.
2 boys.
One that's going to medical school.
Yeah, in spite of all my moaning about the way the world is going in medicine.
And then one that's going to become an engineer.
Right.
And what's your passion? Outside of medicine and politics, are you a gardener? Are you a chef? Are you a?
I like to do both of those things. I like to cook and I like to garden. I used to ride the RAGBRAI every year. Don't have time this year.
Yeah.
But I would say.
I bet you'd be the only gubernatorial candidate riding it.
Probably. I'm going to ride one day.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those. Look for the goofiest looking person out there. I'm one of those recumbent riders. And I have a shirt. If it's not too hot, it's called the Bone Collector.
Okay.
It's a Primus shirt, and it has skeleton with broken bones on it. And my bicycle shop said, Doc, you got to have this shirt. As an orthopedic surgeon, I got to have this shirt. So I'm under the theory that if you look goofy enough, people won't hit you. So
now, are you able to organize rallies at the different RAGBRAI stops?
Well, I'm hoping to. What we're planning on doing is at least handing out some flyers and see if we can get some we'll probably have our signatures by then, but put up a poster and talk to people. And
yeah. Should be.
I also frequent, when I'm here, I frequent your Gold's Gym.
Oh, yeah?
I always say I'm probably the only candidate in Gold's Gym lifting weights too. That is one of my passions. My youngest son's a big weightlifter. And I always used to tell him, I said, you're the buffest geek I know, because, all those engineering electronic guys, they're really kind of not very fit. But Mason's like 6'5" and a big muscle builder. And he's gotten me into it. And my other passion is anti-aging medicine. And I found that the actually best anti-aging exercise is weight training.
Dr. Lee Heib is my guest today. She is the Libertarian gubernatorial candidate from Harrison County, an orthopedic surgeon by trade, a mom of 2, and I bet a pretty good chef. Now, when we come back, see, I've been nice to you. I'm going to turn my pit ball on you there. Tom Coates next with questions right here in Max World on KTIA, Iowa.
Well, I would
Yes,
bet
now
you
your
can
favorite programs on Webcast One Live can all be watched and listened to on any Android or Apple device. Your phone, tablet, or iPad. Yes, your favorite shows on Webcast One Live are available live or on podcast wherever you go. Let me introduce to you some of our great shows.
Shalom! Every week on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman, we'll talk about issues in the Middle East, issues related to the Jewish tradition and religious traditions in general, and keep you up to date on exactly what's going on around the world. You may know some of the story, but you haven't heard all of the story until you've heard it on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman and our special guests we have on every week.
Hey, this is Doc with Doc and Lefty. I want to tell you about our brand new time slot. It's from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. It's on the same night, Tuesdays. We now follow Ed Fallon and the Fallon Forum on webcast1live.com. I want to tell you a little bit about our show. Our show is focused on local, state, and national, and sometimes international politics. We like to keep people updated and informed. We also have very interesting guests. So please join us every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on webcast1live.com.
So when you want to watch your favorite Webcast One program, remember, there's an app for that. You know, there's an app for that.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
All across America, there are countless numbers of people struggling with addiction and other life-controlling issues. Probably someone you know and love. There is a way out. There is hope. Transformations Treatment Center in Delray Beach, Florida, has a unique approach to substance abuse treatment. Call now and ask about our Guaranteed Success program or log on to transformationstreatment.com. Transformations. Change your life. Change your relationships. Transform your world.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
21 minutes after the hour on this 24th day of June in the Lord's year 2014. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is Max World Live here on a Tuesday. Tom Coates sitting in, the lovely Maddie Kane producing as Ryan is on vacation. I think what Ryan did, I'm not sure, but I heard he bought a camel. And he went out to the Sahara Desert, and he's trying to do the Sahara Desert like Ragbri, like in 1 week, go from one end to the other. And so we'll have to get his stories.
Well, that
when,
might
when
be
he
better
gets
than
back.
what one of your hosts is doing, walking across the country.
Ed Fallon?
I saw a picture of Ed, and he wanted 1,000 people marching with him. I think he got 7, and I saw the piece in the paper the other day. So I think he's going to need a camel before he gets done.
Well, at least he's trying to do something for the environment. Yeah, you have to give him that.
Misguided as it is, Mac, yes, he is trying to do something.
Dr. Lee Heib is our guest. She is a orthopedic surgeon from Harrison County. That's Logan, Iowa. And she is the Libertarian gubernatorial candidate for the 2014 election. Ryan Kettleson is her lieutenant governor, and they're running on the Libertarian podium. And, Tom, I'm going to give this segment to you and let you go get him.
Well, actually, Dr.
This is my own little... who's Simon? He's my own little Simon over here.
Well, it depends on who we bring on and what kind of answers we get or don't get, Mac, how much of a bulldog
That's
I am.
right.
We've had some on here that were very frustrating in the last few months. We won't give names out. But you and I were talking off the air, Doctor, about the issue, and I wanted to explore it with you just a little and get some of your thoughts. the issue of the dollar and the international reserve currency, which for some of the listeners may not know, we had the Bretton Woods Agreement that was established actually before World War II was completely over back in 1944, that established the U.S. dollar as the international reserve currency. And at that point, coming out of World War II, we were the creditor nation. We had by most accounts, well over 800 million ounces of gold in our Federal Reserve. We had it. Over a period of time, what we did was we didn't change the peg to the gold, and we continued to spend more than we took in, and eventually the French, and to a lesser degree the Germans, called us on it. And by the time we hit into 1971, the French had been making weekly extractions from our gold reserve, and instead of doing the right thing, I think it was a pivotal moment, Richard Nixon stepped in and slammed the gold window down. Unofficial estimates would have us at that point with about 250 million ounces from the 850 at one point unofficially, because it's never been audited, what we had. Now, to take up and to continue the status, which gives us a real advantage in international trade because they have to get dollars to make those international settlements, Henry Kissinger went to Saudi Arabia and established the link that made us the petrodollar.
Right.
And I know you know much of this. I'm saying it for the audience. And the petrodollar carried us to where we are now. You and I were talking off the air in regards to what China and Russia have been doing in recent years is trying to bring in gold so that they can back their own currency. And now they've hit into a partnership with the disaffected Saudis, who allowed us to become the petrodollar, which supplanted us without the gold backing. We've had a fiat currency since 1971, which in essence there's nothing behind our dollar. We can print as much as we want to, and we talked about, there has, going back to Greenspan, Bernanke, and now the current Federal Reserve Chairman, we've not had somebody like Volcker. Volcker was the last good Federal Reserve Chair we had. So I know I'm doing a little bit of a monologue, but I want to get your thoughts on that. I know it's not a state's issue particularly, but we were talking, and I think you've got some thoughts on the whole situation. And the dollar is pivotal, because as the dollar goes down, so goes the nation.
Oh, yeah. No, I think this is pivotal. And, there's a problem that we have just historically in the world, and that is people living in a comfortable society they all think that tomorrow is going to be like today. But if you really look at history is not a series of very slow ups and downs. It's a series of fractal drop-offs where a society goes along and then there was some kind of rot in that society that caused it to go, and it's usually economic. It can be a lot of things, but it's usually economic. And if you look, for example, at Weimar Germany, they had a lot of problems and they had a lot of debt, but they were dealing with it until one day the whole world decided, we don't trust the mark, and the marks flooded back to Germany, which gave them the hyperinflation that is very famous in our textbooks. That sees the guy with the wheelbarrow to buy bread. Well, okay, today in the world, we're, like you say, we're sustaining our state of existence because we're the petrodollar. Now, Putin is going around the world and he's saying, we can't trust this piece of paper. They're just printing it. It means nothing. And he's been amassing gold. And he says he's going to come out with a gold ruble. And so I got online the other day. I speak a little Russian, and I thought, this is I'm interested in Russian history. And I said, I'm going to find out how old he is. And it turns out he's 61. He's 2 years older than I, 2 weeks older than I am. So he's not going to wait forever.
No.
When he comes out with the gold-backed ruble, he's not going to wait forever. And his plan is to come out with the gold-backed ruble and then force people to say, we're not going to sell you our oil. And they're a major supplier of oil. I think they're the world's biggest supplier right now. They're not going to sell Europe and everybody their oil.
Of course, I don't know if China's going to stand back and let them take all of that position.
No, well, they may not take all the position, but all their oil is going to be bought in gold-backed rubles.
Right, and I think there'll be a partnership, and there is a partnership de facto between the Chinese, which have been bringing in large amounts of gold.
Absolutely.
And I think their currency is called the
renminbi.
The renminbi, okay, yeah. That's right.
And so when they're going to come out, they want to come out with a gold-backed renminbi. But my point is that what the Saudis are going to do, the reason and besides, the other reason that you didn't point out, but it's true, is that one of the points about the agreement made was that we would support Saudi, we'd be their kind of
Well,
military.
we were their protector.
And now we're doing everything we can to undermine
I didn't
the
say
stability
why,
of the
but that's
region.
exactly right. I mean, now we're talking about looking to their mortal enemy to bail us out of the Iraqi situation, the Iranians, and we were supposed to take care of them. So no, the whole thing is blown. How much time do we have, Mac? I wanted to.
Oh, you're fine. You got 7 minutes.
So I'll just say. So I think what's going to happen, unfortunately, this is just me talking. I'm a doctor, and we tend to be bad with money, but I think this is true nonetheless. Looking at history, and that one day when these guys trip the trigger and they say, now you're going to buy our oil in gold, the Saudis are going to say, we are no longer going to accept this stupid piece of paper from the United States. And what's going to happen is all those dollars that are all over the world right now are going to flow back to us just like it did in Weimar Germany. And you're going to see inflation like you've never seen. And when Germany fell, when Zimbabwe fell, when Argentina fell, it wasn't a huge deal but I'll tell you what, when America goes down, it's going to be a huge, huge down. Now, the issue
I think it is. When?
We're Iowans. What do we do? And one of the points I'm going to make from a political standpoint for Iowa is that the more independent we are of federal largesse, which really hasn't brought us anything except tons of regulation, increased cost, and loss of control of our lives, the more dependent we are, the more that's going to hurt us. And at some point, whether you're talking about ethanol subsidies, I know they're helping some of the farmers, but you know what? This is the kind of thing that, do you want to unwind it now, which is not up to the governor, but do you want to unwind these subsidies now from the government, whether it's education or medicine, or do you want to wait until you have the biggest economic collapse you've ever experienced? I think you need a governor that's going to stand up for states' rights, and I think you're already starting to see it around the country. Just like when the Soviet Union fell, Latvia and those places, they kind of broke away because they couldn't see an economic point. Well, look at what's happening. And I think, gun rights is starting to do it. In Idaho, they just they nullified all federal gun laws, past, present, or future. Go Idaho. And little by little, states are starting to say, no, we don't want your Common Core. We don't want this and that. And
look at the border security issue for Arizona and Texas. I mean, we have a head-on collision coming with the issues there. Now, there are a couple of points, though, in regards to the Libertarian Party. I don't think you're going to get any argument from Mac and I in regards to the things that you espouse and the regulations and the way it's choking us out and the all the things that you've espoused at this point. Certainly doesn't hurt to borrow a comment from Ronald Reagan, where I didn't leave the party left me. I think we can all appreciate that too. There's two issues.
I didn't know Reagan said that. I always quote
Reagan. You didn't know that you're borrowing from Ronald Reagan?
I thought I made that up. That's exactly right.
He said that he was at one time a Democrat.
Oh,
he said I didn't leave the party left me.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't know that. I thought you were going to say Ronald Reagan's famous quote that when government's the problem, more government's not the answer. That's my favorite.
Never hurts to borrow, but that was I thought that was pretty well known. That was what he said in regards to. And he said at one point he was asked, he said, do you have any responsibility for this situation? And he says, well, yes, once upon a time I was a Democrat,
That's funny.
But, two issues that I wanted to get out. One, in regards to many of the people that listen to us, Doctor, are strong Christian conservatives. And the moral issues, the issues of life, of abortion, the issue of marriage, the issue of drugs, are all things that are very important to them for various reasons. But a lot of times it comes right around to the core of their religious beliefs. Now, libertarians are typically, and I've heard other libertarians say, do whatever you want to, just don't send me the bill. We could argue about whether you're getting the bill sent to you on some of these things, but I wanted to hear your positions on some of these moral issues that are very important to some of our audience, and Mac and I also.
Well, and let me say, I love Jan Michelson, and he's a libertarian. He's an evangelical Christian. So it's not incompatible to have those beliefs, because if you look at it, government has killed more people in the modern world than any other. Even smallpox didn't kill as many people. So I think one of the things that we need to say is that although not all libertarians are Christians, it is not incompatible with the Christian belief system, because government is what has brought us many, in fact, in my opinion, all of the social problems we talk about. And let me just give you an example. it used to be, when I was growing up in the 50s, if you got pregnant out of wedlock, if you had financial problems, whatever your problem was, you might call up Aunt Matilda for help, and she might give you the help, but she would give it with a moral lecture attached, saying, okay, I'm going to help you, but this is how you get your life in gear. Now, unfortunately, what's happened in today's world is government has intercalated like rot in fabric. And it's broken apart our communities. It's become, you don't go to your neighbor. You don't need your neighbor. You don't need your extended family. You don't need the church and all your social structures we had in 1950. You just call up the government and some social worker comes and helps you, but not with a moral lesson. They just tell you how to fill out the forms to get more entitlements. And I think that's that to me is the moral rot that's crept into our society, and there's really a reason for it, and I think it's big government. So, the people out there may be surprised to find out that my views are not really in contradiction. We may disagree on the drugs. I doubt we disagree on the others very much. And I have it on my website. They can read these things in depth. But here's what I would say is that whatever solution you come up with, we've been trying, for example, let's talk a minute about abortion. We've been trying since 1973 to undo all that and to make sure that people weren't using abortion as birth control and to, we have a constitution that gives you a right to life. And, that can be used. I like Tom Hopfling, if you know him. He was the primary candidate against Branstad, and he's an evangelical Christian and makes a very compelling argument about the Constitution being used, that you don't need a million laws for this. And the problem is, I don't think the answer is putting a guy in a three-piece suit in between you and the patient, or as a physician. There's just a lot of problems with asking government to solve that problem. I think if you get government out of these issues, that free people can solve it. And it wasn't a problem until we had government telling us how to live our life.
Dr. Lee Heib is our guest. She is the Libertarian gubernatorial candidate. Tom Coates on board. We're coming back right after this.
Sorry, you missed.
I'm Brian Lee, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I'm administrative manager.
I'm the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, it's got to be, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed rider it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
If you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? You can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going, though. I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
fixed rider, it's free or 100% money back.
Enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hour on this 24th day of June in the Lord's year 2014. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Remember, Reich Plakey's the nominee for the Gospel Music disc jockey talk show host of the year. He's on Wednesdays and Thursdays during this slot, and then I'll be back this Friday with our traditional View from the Pew. And I was going to look up, right, are you my guest on View from the Pew this week? I don't think so.
I don't think
Pastor Bobby Young, you should be here.
Okay.
Do you remember Bobby Young? He was the pastor that came in with your good friend.
I do know. Okay,
he's coming in to talk a little Jesus talk.
Yeah,
So
the fellow that was in the shadows that day. Yes,
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yes.
So that's on Friday. Dr. Lee Heib is our guest today. She is the Libertarian gubernatorial candidate for the state of Iowa, hailing from Harrison County, which is a community called Logan, Iowa. She's an orthopedic surgeon by trade, and I cut you off as you were kind of explaining the your position on the abortion issue. So, and I'm sorry I cut you off. We were running out of time. I'll let you go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying I'm not in favor of elective abortion, just for birth control, etc. On the other hand, I just don't think any answer that you come to this, I think we're winning the hearts and minds. As you said, off camera, I think we're winning the hearts and minds. I think ultrasound has made a big difference. I think being able to be honest about the issues, there's a huge, there's clearly in all the literature, except for one study, but even studies funded by Planned Parenthood, there's an increased risk of breast cancer after elective abortion. And so
tremendous
I think all that
regret by the women that have had
and
these
depression
abortions
and lots of stuff.
So I think it's being chipped away in many of the states. They're nibbling away. They're trimming back some of the limbs. They're making Planned Parenthood more and more obsolete. They're closing offices. So I think the tide is with us on this, Doctor.
Well, I don't know if you know, but over the last since 2006, there have been 20% less abortions.
Yes.
In spite of increased access.
Yes.
So we are, and that's how we got rid of, that's how we decreased smoking. That's how we decreased drunk driving. I mean, that's how we deal with these things. And that's
they had a ghoul come out of the closet that had been performing these late-term abortions. I wish they'd gotten even more press on that. But we've got the most pro-abortion president in our nation's history in the White House right now. Obama, while he was a senator in Illinois, came out defending the late-term abortions, even once the baby was outside the womb.
How can you do that?
I don't know, but if it weren't for the racial issue, this would have been more exposed, and I don't think he'd ever been in the position that he is. Let me ask you another one. This goes along with some of this, too, and it's one that I have dealt with over the years, and it falls into this category, and it's Iowa has proliferated to the point that we now have about 21 casinos in the state of Iowa. Yet the highest priority of the Iowa Racing and Gaming Commission, which ostensibly was set up initially by the governor when he allowed it to come in, was to protect the population of the state of Iowa, 3 million Iowans, from a predatory industry. Now their highest objective seems to be to make sure that they regulate and keep just enough casinos in the state so they don't cannibalize each other, forgetting the fact that they cannibalize other businesses. I wanted to get your opinion on that issue, because it is a moral issue for many of our people.
It is. I'm not sure it's one, there's nothing you can't make worse with government. I'm not, I'd have to say, if businesses can survive on their own, that's one thing. But if you really look at it, and I was in Arizona for a number of years where we had lots of Indian gaming casinos, it was damaging to the individuals who, there was like an enormous increase in people asking for advances on their paychecks when they came in. It's very expensive to the infrastructure. But you see, the problem is, and I suspect this is true in Iowa, but I really don't know. I hadn't really thought about this issue too much, and I got to say I'll have to research it. But there's a lot of infrastructure that gets kind of silently put into place, and the businesses themselves are not being held responsible for infrastructure. We used to give water very cheaply to one of the gaming casinos. Why? because it's the Native Americans. I mean, and so, it increases your need for police. It increases your road utility. It increases a lot of stuff. If the businesses themselves, if you're going to build an arena, you tax those local businesses to death to do it. But they don't seem to use the same kind of local.
Well, you need to understand too that studies have shown, independent studies, not those that are promoted by the casinos, have shown that half of a convenience casino, and Iowa has all convenience casinos. We're not a tourist model where you're bringing outside dollars in, they're dropping them, and they're going back home. You're cannibalizing your native population. Sure. And nearly half of the dollars lost in these convenience casinos are from problem and pathological gamblers that were created because of the close proximity of those casinos. And when you do that, you have people that are gambling beyond their means. You have all sorts of social pathologies that are played out. Iowa State University did a study years ago showing 18% of Iowa's bankruptcies were filed to discharge primarily gambling debts. I could go on and on. I won't.
Are we subsidizing them in any way, though? That would be my
yes,
question.
we are, because our tax rate, the taxes on the casinos, on the land-based casinos, were supposed to top out at 36%. They sued the state of Iowa, as they've done before. Iowa is not to allow credit. And yet they allow these machines that extend your credit card, and they take a percentage of that. And instead of topping out 36%, we tax them at 22% now, because they said, well, the river boats are only paying 20%, so they sued, and with their 70 lobbyists descending on the Capitol, their compromise was a 22% tax rate. And so they are not taxed nearly enough to pay back the society for the cost that they are creating. That's why it's such a predatory industry. Let me go on. How many minutes do I have for the break, Mac? 4. The other issue I want to touch on, we agree on the essence of your campaign and so on and so forth. But if you think that the Republicans are irreclaimable, irredeemable, they cannot be brought back, we cannot, as Christian conservatives, repopulate the Republican Party enough so that we can hold their feet to the fire, then the Libertarians are the option, because all else is failed. On the other hand, third-party candidates like yourself have traditionally led oftentimes to the defeat of the more conservative option. Now, Bill Buckley was famous for saying, I support the most conservative candidate that can win. If I look at your candidacy, and I look at Terry Branstad, and I look at Jack Hatch, and I'm saying, Dr. Lee Heib, perhaps I subscribe to her beliefs much more closely than I do Branstad's, but she can't win. And therefore, a vote for her is taking one from Branstad. It might potentially make him vulnerable. And if we get a Jack Hatch, as deficient as some people might think Branstad is in some areas, Jack Hatch is far the worst one. So go back to Bill Buckley's comment. I want to support the candidate that's the most conservative one that can win. Your comment to that? Sure.
Well, first of all, that's a perception. But when you actually look, and I don't have the statistics on me right now, but when you actually look, they've looked at this, and it turns out we take the same amount of votes from the Democrats as we do from the Republicans. Surprisingly, I'm surprised to find that out too. But we have a list for elections past, and that turns to be true. When you say you can't win, it looks in the state. Look at what happened to Eric Cantor. Look what's happening around the world. For the first time, Ontario, Canada, I know it's not the United States, but Ontario, Canada, a very, very liberal province, for the first time in the history is poised to have a libertarian majority. There's a libertarian ahead of the Democrat in Florida. Libertarianism is breaking out all over because people like me are realizing we can't be going the same direction. And quite frankly, although you say there's a big difference between Hatch and Branstad, I'm not so sure, because look this is the governor. Your Republican governor has brought you the biggest growth in government, the biggest jump in the budget in the history of the state. I love this picture. There was an email going around, and it shows a picture of Hiroshima, Japan, and I was stationed near there in the Navy, and it's a first-class, beautiful, clean city with electric lights and all sorts of great buildings. And then it shows Detroit, and it shows Detroit as this bombed-out shell with bad buildings, dead cats lying in the road, and graffiti. And
the question, come to the rescue on that.
Yeah, well, and the question it asks is, it says, what's worse for cities? 50 years of bad government or the atomic bomb? And it turns out it's 50 years of bad government, hands down. I can get back to that.
Dr. Lee Lee Heib is our guest today. She is the Libertarian gubernatorial candidate here in the state of Iowa, an orthopedic surgeon by trade and a Libertarian by heart. We'll come back with our last segment, and we'll continue to talk a little bit more about the similarities between Branstad and Hatch. Not so much the difference, at least in Dr. Heib's opinion. That's next, here live on KTIA, Iowa.
Yeah.
All right, Mac.
Hey, what's wrong? Logan wants Let's Rock Elmo for his birthday, but since Steve lost his job, I don't think we can afford it. What did you do for money last year when you and John were struggling to make ends meet?
My secret? I went to Me and Mommy to Be. We sold all of Megan and Ryan's clothes and toys there. They give back the highest percentage on their items in the area, and it was so easy.
Megan's clothes? She's 15.
Yes, they can sign newborn through trendy teens. We're not struggling now, but I'm gonna keep saving and making money at Me and Mommy to Be.
All across America, there are countless numbers of people struggling with addiction and other life-controlling issues. Probably someone you know and love. There is a way out. There is hope. Transformations Treatment Center in Delray Beach, Florida, has a unique approach to substance abuse treatment. Call now and ask about our Guaranteed Success program or log on to transformationstreatment.com. Transformations. Change your life. Change your relationships. Transform your world.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Getting to an order. Every step.
10 minutes before the top of the hour here live on KTIA Iowa. I'm J. Michael McCoy. If I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you. Tom Coates in the house today from Max World Live. Ryan is on vacation training camels in Saudi Arabia. And so Maddie Kane is our producer today. And you were in the middle of answering a question, and I cut you off. So I want you to be able to continue, Doctor.
Thank you. I was just telling about the metaphor of Hiroshima, Japan, and Detroit. And Detroit being, what's worse for cities, it turns out it's not the atomic bomb, it's 50 years of bad government. And when people say they're afraid to vote for a third party, especially the libertarians, in my opinion, what I say is, you're afraid to vote for the third party because you're afraid that guy might win, whoever that guy is. It turns out it doesn't matter at this point which one of those guys wins because they're both driving down this road to Detroit. In the whole history of the state, we've never had a Republican shrink government. We've never had a Democrat shrink government to any appreciable degree. And we can't afford this anymore. So I don't think it's particularly any one individual either. I think it's the political machines. And the only way we're going to save ourselves from the political machines, in my opinion, is unelect every incumbent. You might lose a few good people, but we have to clean house or we're going to go down like Detroit.
All right.
And I just don't think there's, Mark Twain says if you don't change direction, you're going to end up where you're headed.
Yeah. All right, now talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old.
Okay.
Okay, seriously. We're going to go down like Detroit. Tell me what that looks like in Iowa. I mean, we're driven by agriculture and insurance. Right.
Well, who knows what's going to happen in insurance, although insurance industries, if you look at what happened in Germany when they got in bed with the government, big businesses, they did well at first, but they ultimately crashed and burned in big bad ways. And when government takes over your business, have you ever become more cost efficient or more effective? The insurance business is I think they're looking good now, and I can tell you why is because they figured out a way to get people to pay 400% of market value for their product. With Obamacare, young people have to pay, or their rates are jacked up to 300 to 400% of market value. Well, what the other thing it's going to look like right now, let me talk about Obamacare for a second because that'll answer some of this question. You know, I go around the country speaking about Obamacare. I was on Stossel speaking about Obamacare. And that's kind of how I got into the public sphere here. But the point is that before Obamacare, we paid 20% of the state budget on Medicaid, treatment of our indigent, okay? Now, the way it works now is we will not be, the way it worked under Medicaid when we spent 20% of the budget is you put your tax dollars into the government. The government then parceled it out directly to the doctors and hospitals at a rate that didn't cover the cost of care, but it was low. You know, it kept the cost down a little bit. Now what they're going to do is buy an insurance policy for these people at 300 to 400% the market value. If you think that's an economic sustainable model, it's not. Plus Des Moines, I think in fact I'm right, and my book is going to come out this year, Surviving the Medical Meltdown. What it's going to look like is you're going to have the huge, Des Moines, you're going to watch the cranes, the builders, you're going to be building buildings because you're going to have a huge number of regulators in this city to delve into everybody's financial situation to figure out what you qualify for. It's going to be a nightmare, but Des Moines is going to grow, and the rest of us are going to shrink.
Now, Doctor, I've heard that the vast majority of the signups that they like to brag about now, the 7-8 million signups, are subsidized, in some cases
Yes.
significantly subsidized. Am I right on that?
That is exactly my point, and that's this. They're subsidizing to buy these insurance policies that are inflated in cost. I mean, my son, the medical student, he's 25 years old, never smoked, perfect health, thin. We were paying $46 or $47 a month in health insurance. And everybody said, oh, we can't afford health insurance. Really? No, you can afford your truck payment, $47 a month. So it wasn't bad before Obamacare. It was people didn't know how to shop for it, I agree. But there were some issues, but this wasn't the worst. What happened is now, because of the 3-to-1 rule in Obamacare, now he's paying $169 a month. Okay, that's a 400% increase. And that's what's going to happen to everybody. Besides the cost of the exchanges, and you know, when I called them about his insurance, it was funny. This would be funny if it weren't so tragic. His insurance company sent me a letter and said, you know, you have 3 choices. Stay with this at the inflated price. They didn't say inflated. Stay with this at the new price of $169. Look for a new ACA-compatible insurance company or go on the Obamacare exchange, the state exchange. Well, I'd rather sell him into slavery than go on the state exchange. I have some pride, and so I said, I'll call option number 2. But what did I get? I got the state exchange. So I said, no. And he tried to tell me about this. Oh, I don't want that. So I called option number 1, the old insurance policy. And lo and behold, I got the state exchange again. I said, are you the only guy in the state? And I finally had to talk to this guy from the state exchange, my navigator, I guess. And he basically said to me, you don't get it. There's only one insurance policy. You know, what happened to choice and keep your doctor? There's only one insurance policy. The issue is, are you going to pay for it or is the great state of Iowa going to pay for it? So that's exactly right. It's an economic nightmare. So I think if people come to small town America, you're going to see all these storefronts sitting empty that weren't sitting empty in the 60s. You know, it's incrementalism. We're slowly going down the road to very, very centralized, all the businesses. You know, you're going to lose your small hospitals. 88 of the hospitals in Iowa are small rural hospitals, and they're struggling. They're struggling badly under this.
And you think they'll shut down?
I think they're going to lose some. And I think this is part of the plan, is to urbanize all healthcare and take it over Canadian style.
But we used to be proud of the fact in the state of Iowa that you could only, you know, by horse, you could get to any county seat.
Right, 8 miles.
8 miles, that's right. And then hospitals were available in rural regions. And now it seems like we're backing away from that.
You know, I always joke that I started my medical career at age 4 carrying my dad's black bag. And I used to go out on house calls with him. And he used to charge, in 1970, he charged $6 for a house call, $3 for an office visit. Today, under this nightmarish medical system that we have, and if you go online, I've got lots of things written about this, like government health care is hazardous to your health, government medicine is hazardous to your health. It costs about $58 just to bill a third party, Medicare, Medicaid, you know, insurance companies, $58 just to bill. So the day of you going in for a sore throat and getting a $20 visit, which you could have in this day and age, you're not going to get it because of this $58. You know, and this kind of, and why is it that way? It's the 160,000 pages of Medicare regulation. It's hard to be in compliance. Look at your little town hospitals. They used to be all filled with beds for patients. Now they're all filled with administrative offices and a few beds. We become like every other overregulated economy, that we're like an engine that doesn't go forward. We just produce heat. And part of it is our state. We can't solve maybe the federal Medicare, but our state regulations are onerous. I mean, we have state regulations that are out of control, and they've become jobs programs for regulators. And I'm reminded of, as we come to the 4th of July, I'm reminded of the Declaration of Independence, where one of the complaints of the colonists was that King George sent out his minions to eat out the lifeblood, of its people. And that's basically what these regulators are doing. Here's an example in a hospital setting, but I can tell you my meat market guy, if you get on my website at Heib2014.com, I'll mention that, that actually has an interview with my meat market guy telling the incredibly inane regulations that's trying to put him out of business. But in my hospital, for example, they came in, they sent 3 to 4 regulators for 3 to 4 days, and what they find are auxiliary women, the little gray-haired ladies that run our gift shop, their shot record wasn't up to snuff. A lot of money to discover that. Whew.
We'll hear more from Dr. Heib as time goes on. She is your libertarian gubernatorial candidate. Check her out at Heib, Hieb 2014.com. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Look forward to having you come back. Tom, thanks for being here. Maddie, thanks for producing. And I'll see you on Friday. And until we meet again, do me one favor, would you? Pick that person you can't stand, you can't forgive, you just can't stand to be around. Tonight, on your knees, pray for them.